So recently there's been an influx of new players onto Battlefield 2042 because of it going free on PS Plus Essential tier. It's been great seeing so many new faces and names and lower ranks joining the fight in 2042, and I thought it'd be quite nice to put together a video of some tips and tricks that you may not have known for new players on Battlefield 2042. If you're jumping in for the first time or considering jumping in because you've seen it free on PS Plus, this is the place to come for a few tips that you might not know about, some of which you may have heard before, but hopefully there are a few in here that you haven't heard before and will help you out. So let's get straight into a few things that I would have loved to have known when I first started playing 2042. First off, we've got one of the most important things when starting playing any Battlefield, but it also applies to 2042 very much, and that is not worrying about your KD at first, if at all, because KD does not win games in Battlefield. Your team won't thank you if you get a lot of kills, but you get absolutely stomped by the other team because you're not taking objectives, not reviving, not resupplying, or helping out your team in any other way. Sure, getting kills is very, very nice and will drain tickets from the enemy team if they don't pop off a revive on the person you just killed, but a revive is just as important as a kill in most game modes for your team's success. So bear that in mind. Following on from this, we've got play the objective. The objective is king in Battlefield titles, 2042 especially, because there's so many objectives around the map. It's useful to be constantly thinking what routes you can take to objectives that enemies might not be on, objectives they might have just left open, and working with your squad, if you play in a squad, to push those objectives. No matter what class you are, you can probably help clear objectives and take them in some way or another, and this is ultimately what wins games of Battlefield. In Conquest, it's capturing flags. In Breakthrough, it's also capturing flags, and that's a lot more of a big team effort. But in modes like Rush, Hazard Zone, many portal modes, whatever it is, there's usually an objective to Battlefield game modes, unless you're playing TDM, and you need to keep that in mind. Don't just go for the kills, play the objective. Now let's move on to figuring out your class. Once you've hopped in, you've got 4 classes to choose from. You've got Support, Engineer, Assault, and Recon. For me personally, I like playing Assault because I enjoy aggressively pushing objectives, using McKay's zipline, but there are other options for the Assault class with different specialists. Having 2 extra magazines for assault rifles when you're running assault as a class is also a great help. Personally, that class for me is what I enjoy playing. And if you're still finding your footing between each class, you can jump into some single player, test them out there and see how you like each of their gadgets and their perks. Picking your class is detrimental to the Battlefield experience and also will help your team quite a lot because you'll be able to coordinate with your squad members. Maybe one of you will run Engineer, one of you will run Recon, and you'll be able to SOFLAM and destroy vehicles with ease. Squad play is key, and classes play a huge role in this. Next up, we essentially have the same point but for weapons. Figure out what guns you like using. Is it marksman rifles, SMGs, assault rifles, sniper rifles? Don't be afraid to play around with the arsenal and see what you enjoy using, because ultimately, you're here to have fun. If you enjoy running around with SMGs that are high damage per second, but maybe don't have the best range or recoil to control, then go for it. If you enjoy using assault rifles for that balanced experience, or marksman rifles for the same reason, or if you enjoy the long range sniping experience, pick and choose what you want to use, but I would recommend trying everything. You might find a gun that you really enjoyed that you didn't expect to, and if you're afraid of messing up an online lobby for whatever reason, even though that's completely fine to test out what you want to use in online lobbies, if you are conscious of that, once again hop into single player and test out these weapons. And that segues into my next point of testing out vehicles before you use them. Now, guns aren't too influential to the entire team's experience. With 128 players on each server, what you pick as a gun isn't going to affect too much unless you're going on a massive tear and clearing loads of objectives with an SMG or an assault rifle. But vehicles are important, and you ideally don't want to be wasting them. But how can you get good with vehicles without messing up online lobbies and jumping into a condor and crashing it into a mountain instantly? This is where single player comes in yet again, or setting up your own portal server in Conquest, maybe with bots or with no bots, and just practicing flying around. Take this time to learn how the Hind, the Condor, the Nightbird, and the Jets all handle, so when you come into online and you do get the opportunity to use these vehicles, you know how to use them well. What's an added bonus is that for all weapons and vehicles, your first 300 kills, which is what it takes to unlock all of the attachments for them and upgrades for them, can be done in solo lobbies. You can kill bots and grind weapon attachments, so when you want to use the weapon on online, you can use it competitively because you've unlocked all the attachments for it in solo. And you might be seeing some weapons named vault weapons that seem slightly confusing right now. Those are simply weapons from previous battlefields that have been ported over into the Battlefield 2042 All-Out Warfare roster. Now these also have unlock requirements, and luckily enough you can use solo lobbies to unlock these too. If they feel a little grindy, maybe getting 100 kills with a sniper rifle isn't really your thing to unlock a vault weapon or a weapon in general that's locked behind a requirement, go into solo and do it there. It'll be much faster, it'll be less stressful for you if you don't like using a certain weapon type to unlock another weapon, and it'll allow you to unlock these at a far faster pace and get you to using them in the battlefield a lot quicker too. And moving on, my next tip is to just don't be overwhelmed. There's a lot going on in matches, even out of matches there's a lot on the UI sometimes. Weekly missions, attachments, gadgets, weapons, vehicles, skins, the battle pass. There's a lot to manage as starting as a new player. I can't imagine how much content there is to try and dive into as a new player with this game. But just sit back, take a look at it all, and take your time to see what different menus are, what different sub-menus offer, and see what the rewards for different challenges are. Because there is a lot to go through in 2042 at the moment. We're in Season 4, there's been a lot of updates come since launch, so it might be a little overwhelming, but just take a step back and have a look at everything. I also encourage this in online matches sometimes too. Sitting back and actually watching firefights go down, watching aerial battles and watching tanks battle it out, and just sitting there and watching the landscape, especially on big maps like Hourglass, I find incredible to watch. Speaking of maps, take your time to learn them. Most of the base maps have been reworked to make them a bit smaller, but they are still some of the most expansive Battlefield maps ever created, and there's a lot in them, so take your time maybe in solo too to explore them a bit, or in online matches take notes of where objectives are, where lanes between objectives are, and how to take them. Try and discover flanking routes for yourself, and check your big map by holding your trackpad on PS5, and I think it's your menu button on Xbox. Have a look at the big map, see where players are, see where you can get around enemy players, and just keep an eye on that map, and your map knowledge will come over time. The maps are big, don't expect to learn them instantly. You will be outplayed when starting the game as a new player because other players will just have better map knowledge than you, but don't let that put you off because you will learn it in time. And you'll find little routes that you personally like that other players might not, and you might be able to pull off some great plays with that. And my final point is to try out the other modes that 2042 has to offer. Don't get me wrong, I love All-Out Warfare, but Portal and Hazard Zone sometimes are where it's at. Even though Hazard Zone had a rocky launch, I still feel like the mode is a lot of fun if you have a group of 4 people you can play with. Now that it's free on PS Plus, your mates have no excuse not to join in. Drag them into a match of Hazard Zone. It is a lot of fun, it isn't the deepest extraction shooter, but you can have a good time with it for sure if you coordinate with your team, keep an eye on your surroundings, fight the AI and the other players, and extract with drives. It's a lot of fun, so check it out. Same goes with Portal. There are a lot of community events going on a lot of the time. Check Twitter for Portal events, see when things are happening, and join in with modes like Payload and Frontlines, because they're a lot of fun. Don't sleep on the featured modes either, because stuff like Battlefield World Tour, I think it is, which includes all of the Portal maps with all of their respective eras in Conquest and Rush, is so much fun. Do not sleep on those because they are incredible. And the recurring modes like Gunfight Royale, Air and Vehicle Superiority. If you're getting sick of Conquest, the main game, after playing it for too long, just hop onto Portal. There's so much diversity and the rotation gets updated multiple times a week. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Those have been my little tips and tricks with Battlefield 2042. Let me know if any of them did help you, if you didn't know any of the tips I've given today, and if you're not a new player, make sure to help out new players and teach them what you can if you find them struggling in online matches, or saying on Reddit how they don't know how to do something or work a certain mechanic. Help out the new players because this is the future of the player base. We need to give them a good impression now so they stick around and keep playing. If you do want to join a positive place for discourse on Battlefield, I'll leave a link to the No Salt Discord below. Everyone there loves this game, it's very positive about it, and they'll be welcoming to you. Give me a shout on there if you do join, come and say hi because I will say hi back. And I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.